Man, these residents sure are evil, huh? Hello, everyone.
Premature.
That was a premature joke. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pop Corner episode 22.
Because I'm feeling 22. Sorry, I had to get that in there.
Taylor's version, am I right?
Yeah.
You know? Anyway, we are recording this after or before we've seen Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which will be episode 21, but that's going out this week, and then next week is this. Time loops, it's fine. It's cool. Don't worry about it. Hope you enjoyed or didn't enjoy Indiana Jones 5 and or our non-spoiler review. Anyways, my name is Coleman, fallinghurts, this channel, that's me. And this is my dear friend, Draven. How are you doing today, sir?
We chillin', we vibing, we watched this Resident Evil movie to see if it is as bad as everyone says. And
yeah,
we got things to talk about today.
Actually, it's interesting. I think this is probably the first time in a while that we both have a common interest in a franchise being Resident Evil, but from the game's perspective.
Yeah.
And then we're also not attached to this IP in such a way that, as far as the movies go, like neither of us are going out to we're not going out to bat for this film, but we're both looking at it from the seemingly critical lens of 2023, where we have a podcast to do so.
Yeah.
But as always, before we get into that,
all right, let's hear it. Lay it on me.
You know, we do some icebreaker stuff here. At least I try to, or I want to try to lead that as a part of a conversation. But for the sake of things today, let's keep it on brand. Resident Evil.
Okay. Resident Evil.
Let's, obviously we're going to be talking about the movie, and we'll get into the other movies, which we still, at least I don't have very much interaction with. Even the movie I've seen before, I don't remember anything that happens but one scene.
Okay.
So, with that being said, as far as the games go, I somewhat know, but, what are your favorite games, favorite characters? What are you maybe interested to see callbacks to, or anything like that, whether it be in this movie or movies to come?
All right. Well, as a pretty good enjoyer of the Resident Evil franchise.
Yeah.
Although I have not played the original because
shame.
I don't mess with them camera angles, man. And I know every Resident Evil fan right now is like,
it's so good. It's so good.
I know what goes on in the first one. I know the mansion incident. Chris, Jill, you almost became a Jill sandwich. I know what's up. I've been around the block.
Into a Jill sandwich.
Whoa. But I kind of joined the game later. I would say that my first Resident Evil game ever was Resident Evil 4. And after that, I went from 4 to 3. And then I went to 5 to 6 to 7. And then I went back and we played the RE2. Well, it's new, but RE2 remake, RE3 remake, and then probably Village, and then RE4 remake. So I have never played the original game. But I do know about it, of course. I know everything. Fair. I know everything about every game. I just haven't played the original because I'm just that guy. I'm a loser. But when it comes to favorite characters, your boy Leon Kennedy out here, he's the man. Although I am a big fan of villains. Wesker is a legend, and that man is just absolute unit Chad tier. And honestly, you're more of the old school gameplay because you've never played 5, 6, or any of those games. And also, before I let you talk, I don't care. I know it's a split fan base, and you're either team horror,
here we go,
team action.
Here we go.
I'm cool with both. I like the horror side. I like the action side. 5 is probably my favorite game.
I wish the games could coexist.
Yeah.
In the sense that I wish that the horror games could also be action games at the right moments.
Yeah.
But then you get, even with Resident Evil 4, from what I understand, it's definitely far more leading action.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
I want that perfect blend.
I would say the remake's more horror-esque than the original, as far as like being darker and atmosphere and stuff like that.
It seems like
it definitely is. Yeah.
But for me, my first Resident Evil experience, I was in elementary school, so I was 3rd to 5th grade. Okay, well, we were 8 to 11 years old, 8 to 10 years old, something like that, right?
Okay.
And I played Resident Evil 2, the original Resident Evil 2.
Yeah, the original, yeah.
And I remember you got to pick between Claire and Leon.
Yep.
Because that's all I remember is you got to pick between the girl or the boy at the time. That's all I knew. So I picked the boy because I'm like, oh hell yeah, and he's this nice blonde looking kind of guy, and I was like, all right, not really even blonde then, but I was just like, yeah, that's me. And then it just shows me, and
It's me.
I'm him, and I couldn't actually figure out how to get into the police station, so
You got pretty far.
I got really far.
You got real far into the game.
It was so bad that I think Leon has a block animation in the game, or at least like a crouch animation, to where when he sits there, he does seemingly hold his knife out. And I was so confused as to what to do or what the controls were that I thought that if I sat there, the zombies would walk into
your
my
knife.
and then I would just die. So I was like, no, this is not right. But
Elementary school Coleman.
I didn't know what I was doing. But yeah, really, Resident Evil in that sense has always been something that's interested me, but it wasn't until recent years that I was like, I played pretty much starting with 7. With you guys, I kind of witnessed some of that, and then I was kind of hands off, and then I did 2 remake.
Yeah, I watched you play 2, yeah.
And then you helped me with 3, and then I played through them again, and then I actually went back and did Resident Evil 1, and that's my favorite.
It's a good game.
It's really good. And with that, I've only seen one of these movies that we're going through, because are there 3 of like the Mia Jovovich movies?
Maybe 4?
Great.
There's like a final chapter.
Do we commit? Are we committing to these?
Oh no,
are we doing it?
I don't know.
It can only get worse.
I mean,
I
honestly
think it can get better.
Talking about the movie here, I vividly remember this one more than the rest, but I do remember liking the second one the most. If I can picture but again, I was younger, obviously, but I just remember seeing Jill and seeing Nemesis come out and be like, stars. I'm like, it's on the big screen. Woo. You know what I'm saying?
I just want to punch little you. All right. I can just imagine.
Oh, I'm so sorry, mister. I like the Doom movie with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson
did I
and
say
Little
that?
Coleman.
Did I say Popcorn episode 22.
We watched Resident Evil.
Resident Evil, yes.
So going into this movie, you said you've never really...
I've seen a clip of this movie. I've never seen this movie before in my life.
What was your vibe going in? Did you think that we were...
going in? Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how far into the horror it would be leaning, because the movie came out in 2002.
Yeah.
Let's say they made their movie for a year, 2001.
It was in the horror section too, by the way.
On
Netflix.
Netflix thinks it was scary. The movie, I have some thoughts about this film, and looking at it from a very critical lens with no nostalgia. Granted, there's been movies recently that I've given a pass. Movies like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I understand that people don't like that movie, but guess what? I thought it was a fun time. This movie, I thought it had fun aspects. It just wasn't there for me completely.
Honestly, I think there's a lot of hit and miss potential here. There's some things they did really well I like, and there's a lot of things that I'm like, yikes. And honestly, I'm kind of glad they didn't include any, like we were talking, I'm glad they didn't include
because
any
it would taint them.
Characters from the game, because it would taint them, but also it just, I don't know where you would even put them in there unless it's just Leon Kennedy just walks in at the half end point, just
right.
I'm in the Umbrella Corporation, what's going on here?
Right.
I didn't want that, and we didn't get that. I think the only thing we did get is a little shadow of Wesker at the end walk by, but that's it. That's about all you get.
Now, I think, and then of course the tie-in with Nemesis at the end.
Yeah, and then obviously
so there's
clues. There is tie-ins.
It's just not quite as direct as far as our protagonists are concerned.
It's one of those things that the tie-ins that we've said so far, plus Raccoon City and the Hive and Umbrella and stuff, and the names are there, but that's really it. They use the liquor enemy for one fight. And
they tease it for half the movie.
Yeah,
so.
But then after he attacks the one guy, he mutates and he's not in liquor anymore.
Yeah.
So they're there for little Easter eggs, but all in all, you really could have just redesigned the liquor thing or the monster.
And
you could have just used a different facility or something. It could have just not been called Resident Evil.
Right. Now, okay. So I know that in a way kind of summed up your basic overall thoughts of this movie. It
Yeah.
could have been something else, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree wholeheartedly. I think the best way to actually talk about this movie, as far as how I believe it's wasted potential, is how I just talked about the games.
Yeah.
You know, the games, they can't figure out the balance between action and horror. This movie is all action. This movie has
You
very little horror, and what horror is, it feels like it was thrown to the wayside.
If he thinks this one's
And
this one is probably the most horror-esque one. The rest of them are action.
and that's honestly fine. I think that can work, because the issue here is it wants to have horror,
But it just
but
doesn't.
the horror,
It lays flat.
It's like,
It falls flat.
Mom, can we go horror? The horror at home, and then show Resident Evil 2002. You know, or we have horror at home, and then the horror at home.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying. But I just this movie comes off more as goofy than anything.
It does.
Like, there's scenes where, like, is it Mr. Gray or whatever? Is that the one? Not Christian Grey, but the African American guy who is the squad leader.
Yeah,
yes.
the squad leader.
You know, there's the scene where he comes up and like is talking to Alice, and then it just plays quick sounds really quick.
Yeah, just
and
ring.
it's just like jump scares.
I just remember, like, the
why
one.
are you getting scared by a black guy? You know, like, what is that?
Is that the one you're thinking? The one where it's like Alice looking in at like the whatever, like the window or something, and then you think something's gonna pop at her, but then it like curves a little bit, and then he's just like sitting there with his face just right there.
Yes.
It's like,
yes.
breathe.
Like, what is going on? And then the dogs. It was really entertaining watching Alice go into the room. The dog jumped through the window. She's in the room with the dog. She gets the gun. She goes out of the room.
Close the door again.
Closes the door on the dog. Of course, she turns around, and all of the other dogs from all the kennels are there. And she's thinking, "What the dog doing?" And so she starts blasting. You know, I'm like, "All right, cool." You know,
So then I started blasting.
So then she started blasting, and you think it's all fine, but then you're like, "Oh wait, there's that one, and he already knows how to get out of the window." And so you look over, and
Yeah, he's just sitting there. He's just like,
he says, "Hmm."
he's like, "You just slaughtered my entire family."
It is so funny. I love.
And then she just like runs up the wall and kicks him in the face.
And again, I'm not even saying that was supposed to be a horror scene, but it wasn't even tense. It was just funny.
Yeah, it was just funny. It was wacky.
Like you still need to have tension for your action.
Mm-hmm.
Or what about the fact that, what is it, Capcan or whatever the hell the guy's name was?
Yeah, Kaplan or whatever.
Kaplan.
Yeah,
He
Jeff
got-
Kaplan.
He split out of Overwatch. No, he split out of the group because he fell into the horde of the undead.
Yeah.
And then he still didn't have any more bites than the one that he fell in there with.
Yeah, he got out of there
Yeah,
with just the one bite. Yeah,
and-
at least
and
he never really says.
Well, yeah, but like as you see him crawling up, I'm like looking over his body. He doesn't have anything
Yeah,
other than the one that was already. Again, he already had it when he fell down.
he said.
Just kidding. You got to work for your food. But again, there's no stakes, it seems, to a lot of this.
Honestly, all the characters too didn't really matter besides Alice, and then
Right. An original character, and I think that's. I actually, for the sake of this movie, I think it's cool.
her name, you know who I'm talking about, the girl, military girl,
Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah, her actual character in that. I don't remember her name.
Rain.
Rain, yes. I do like Rain. Rain was cool. Out of all the characters, Rain was. I dug the.
I think Rain was cool because we set it up really early that she's infected,
Yeah,
and I think there are stakes for her character. And I guess if you're like thinking like, oh, humanity's gonna die if the T virus gets out. Yes, there's stakes for every character.
yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
I mean, I don't know. I just think Rain was probably the one that like popped out the most out of all the characters that weren't Alice because she had the most charisma, the most characteristics.
No, I agree.
But also at the same time, like when she's like bit, like you're like, oh man, she's bit. She's gonna die probably in turn in like 5 minutes. But then she gets bit again.
It's like the
and bit again and bit again.
I love that.
And then like at the end, she even gets like the like she gets the cure.
And then they do the fake out. She's like, I'm still alive.
Yeah, she's like, grabs the gun. She's like, I'm just going to take that. And then when the liquor thing starts fighting them and then like, they need help and then they turn around and she's just like zombie. So like, I thought her whole dynamic
I thought that was good. Yeah,
I-
actually,
hers was really good.
I actually do genuinely agree. I thought that was good. I thought Alice was fine.
She was hit or miss. I think her as a character is really good, especially like later on, because later on it becomes more action packed. So later on she's just like double machine guns,
Right.
like she's just out here. She's basically the Jill Valentine of this universe.
Right. But my issue with her is more of an issue with the plot, and let me see if you can back me up on this.
All right.
I hate the plot moving forward by way of like the memories coming back.
Yeah, the flashbacks.
The flashbacks.
What was the phrase that they say like 6 times with the flashbacks?
She goes, I have access to security codes, surveillance cameras and fucking sex tapes. I have it all.
Yeah,
you know?
they say that like 8 times.
They say it like 8 times, and then the other guy says it.
Yeah, because when he gets his memory back.
What's his name? Matt? Kevin? What is it? Nemesis.
Nemesis was Matt.
Matt.
Yeah.
Because he says it.
Yeah. So like when you see like Nemesis and Resident Evil anymore, whether it be the games or movies or what, it's Matt.
What's up, Matt?
What's up, Matt?
And I think I keep wanting to call her Jill. No, Alice.
Yeah.
Alice is a character that I think feels mostly more of a miss in this movie, not because of the character that she is, but the way that she ends up getting there. Which I get that she's like a fully trained person beforehand.
I know, but it's just the switch is so out of nowhere.
Yes.
She gets like one like little flashback, and then out of nowhere she's just flipping walls, kicking things. It's just like, huh?
My favorite flashback of hers was the one where she remembers about the antivirus.
She just like looks at the window.
She
just
looks at the window,
over
and then there's like a full blown like.
It's like a video game, like
Ghost?
the past ghost thing. Like she
Yes.
just like interacted with it, and then like you just see the ghost like talking and doing their daily lives.
And that's something I'll say. Back then the lines between video game and movie were definitely a little different, as opposed to a video game, movie, or TV show now, right?
Yeah.
But I think that really did feel right out of a video game.
Yeah, it was jarring for.
But
a
it
movie.
was never something that was in Resident Evil.
No.
So it was just like this. It's like in Infinity War when they play a joke. He's like, "Hey, yeah, we got to bow to the king," and then he bows, and then T'Challa's like, "We do not do that here." And it's like that's Resident Evil. Like we don't do that psychological shit here.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like, I've never seen that many movies even use that technique in any of their. Like, you see flashbacks and stuff like that all the time. But I don't think I've ever really seen, and it was just so jarring because like the rest of the cast are like on the opposite of the hallway, and they're just kind of like, "What's going on?" They turn around and she's just sitting there, just standing there, just like,
Right.
and she just in her mind she's just seeing all these things happen. She's like, "There's a cure."
Right.
What?
Now,
I didn't like that scene.
what the cure stuff and like all of that, yeah.
I'm cool with the cure being a thing
Right,
and
yeah.
being like a plot device to be like, oh,
Just
maybe
the introduction of it.
maybe there's hope for our Rain character here and
Right,
stuff like
right.
that. And since the Kaplan guy comes back out of nowhere, it's like, okay, maybe he can live.
Right.
Like there was some stakes there. Like, oh, cool. I just didn't like the way of introducing the cure to be. It was just jarring. It was out of nowhere.
That's fair. So character-wise, I guess we've pretty much covered. We've got like Rain. We like her stakes.
Yeah, great.
Alice is a character that's kind of hit or miss with presentation, but I think there is potential there for a future, which she has. So
The best character in this movie, don't even know his name. I just want to throw him out there as the best character in the film just because of this specific scene, and you know what I'm talking about. So, Resident Evil 4, I know you don't know, but Resident Evil 4, Leon Kennedy gets trapped in a room. What comes his way? Lasers.
I was gonna.
And this man's like,
I had this scene on cue. It was coming up.
Parkour. Leon's just that. He's that guy. He is him for real.
Yes.
Okay. Now who comes over here in this little hallway, gets closed, lasers everywhere. There's like the squad leader and then this
like 3 other
guy
guys.
and this girl. The girl dies first, I'm pretty sure. And then this guy, not even the squad leader, this guy is the best because the laser's coming at him. He's trying to back up and then he's like, big brain time. It's on the ground. I can just jump over it.
Right.
Man hops and then it
It
goes
raises.
up.
I love it. It was so good.
And then the squad leader, he's just
He gets
dodging all of them.
He gets cross-hatched.
Yeah, he's dodging like a few of them though, because
Yeah.
he even like gets on the pipes on top and like goes over it, and then the other one comes and he's like, "All right, bring it," and then it just goes. The whole room is just lasers. He's like,
Yeah.
"Oh."
Yeah. No,
That scene was great.
that was one of my favorite scenes of this movie.
Yeah.
Bar none. I thought that was just it was entertaining in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't too much. It was really cool, and I think it feeds into probably one of my favorite aspects of this movie, and that's the setting. You know, Raccoon City aside, you know, that's part of really a small factor of it, but the Hive and the whole underground network,
Yeah.
the entire company, well, not the entire company, but the entire like laboratory and everything taking place. People, they even say people living and working underground. They're never going up.
Heck, they even have like a fake background of like a city just to
Yes.
make them feel like they're not underground all day.
So I really enjoyed that.
I mean, I feel like right from the get-go, from the beginning, like when people are getting trapped and stuff, like right from the get-go, it tells you that this movie is pretty claustrophobic. Like they're all in the Hive, so like they're very like tight corners, tight
Right.
rooms.
The
Like,
elevator getting
yeah.
stuck, and then the rooms filling, like
water.
they're sealed, they're filling with water, and even the room with the kennels with the dogs. Like when we see it later, right before she gets jumped.
Yeah.
I love the look of the place. It's very industrialist. It's very like it's all gray, like
Yeah.
silver. Everything's broken apart, and the only thing going against the gray and silver is like the flesh of
Yeah.
like the dogs tearing out or tearing someone up. I love that. It's not black and white. It's red and gray, and it's like
Yeah.
it stands out. Very visceral. You know
I
what
feel
mean?
like the atmosphere of this movie was really good. In all honesty, I think the mansion could have been just thrown away at this point. I feel like the
Yeah.
mansion was kind of irrelevant. They definitely just put that in there to be like, mansion.
Yeah, and then the guy's name was Spencer. So.
Yeah, so wasn't it Spence?
Well, she
Wasn't
calls him
Spencer.
Spence, but I thought I assumed she was shortening
Yeah,
Spencer.
But like, I feel like that was just unnecessary. I mean, she could, because like she was working for Umbrella. She was gonna like betray him, right, by taking that stuff. She could have
Yes.
already been down in the facility and passed out or something, and then the squad leader and them just come in and she's just on the floor or something,
Right,
like
right.
something like that. I just feel like the whole mansion thing was kind of pointless, but that's just my opinion. I know that like the thing was to be like a outpost kind of to like guard
Right.
so no one gets to the
like a
hive.
secret, yeah.
But
Again with like the setting, I don't mind the mansion. I wouldn't have minded the mansion, I should say, if more time was spent there.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
there's just not enough time there to like really care about it. It's like,
But I wouldn't have wanted more time on the movie either. Like an hour 40, that's pretty good.
yeah,
Like that's anything more than that, that's pushing it.
yeah,
For what the stakes of the movie
yeah,
were.
for sure. You
You know
don't
what I
want
mean?
a longer version of this movie. It's just
Right.
like, it would have been interesting to see them tie the mansion more importantly into it. I mean, it's just basically there for the beginning and be like, oh, she lived here and so did he, and they were married
Yeah. and
fakely. But then at the end, they get out that way, and then
yes.
that's basically all it's used for.
But I like the setting.
Yeah.
I don't want to say set pieces per se, but like, you know, I like that scene with the lasers.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other scenes, action or otherwise, that you really enjoyed like that?
I mean,
All
that's
things considered, I will say I enjoyed the dog scene.
the
for
dog
what it
scene was cool. The dog scene was cool because it was different from what we've seen so far in the movie.
I didn't think it was very well shot though.
No, but like at the end of the day, the dog.
No,
just-
it was an entertaining scene.
It was entertaining, and then just the dog going into the window and then having to come back out and being
Yep.
like, "Oh, my
Yep.
family's dead." That was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
So like, as a horror vibe, no, but as like just a fun time, it was a great scene, and. I mean, I like the introduction of them seeing the zombies for the first time, like all of them coming around. Like you have like the
Like
one
they're
guy with his
starting
like
to creep out of there.
Yeah,
and
you have
stuff.
like the guy with the one foot that's like broken and he's like walking
Right.
on it still. Like that looks gross.
Yeah.
Like honestly, for 2002, the zombies didn't look terrible. Like they looked pretty decent.
Yeah,
Like,
no, it wasn't
like,
bad.
Yeah, like the visuals for the zombies were pretty decent. And
I love the idea of zombies being in such a claustrophobic space.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because
Like
zombies as a concept being like, you know, bunched up and hoarding like that, it's always already a claustrophobic thought.
But
Now
being,
combine
yeah.
that with the fact that you're in an actual claustrophobic space.
If we're talking like that with scenes, I like the part where they're like trying to get the door unlocked and they're all rushing towards them, and then they get the door unlocked finally with the passcode. And as soon as it opens, it's like, see, was it that hard? And as soon as it opens, there's
there's
zombies
more.
everywhere
Yeah.
on that side. Like, I like the claustrophobic idea of them getting surrounded, not just from this way and this door they think they're safe at, but as soon as they open it, now they're getting hoarded from two ways.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
being in the underground facility with all these zombies everywhere, it was nice. I like that. I like the vibe of it.
Yeah,
But the horror part doesn't match with
yeah, because
that.
when you've got two hordes of zombies and only one guy dies,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like, again, the stakes are stripped away.
Yeah.
Again, the thing that I think does this movie the biggest favor is the setting. Underground, dark, tight corridors. I think it works really well. I think every other aspect of this movie betrays that. I think the two things that I think we need to talk more on as far as negatives for me, I don't know what
Okay.
you've got,
Okay, go ahead.
but the two things that I need to talk about are some of the scene, not the entire movie, there's some parts that are really good, but the kind of pacing of the movie, and then also, and I'll let you kind of decide and think about how you maybe would change. We always kind of change pacing as we go.
Yeah, if we
But,
could, yeah.
if we can change a scene or swap around some scenes, what we would do, it sounds like for you, it might just be cut Spencer Mansion.
Kind of, yeah.
So, I think pacing is one thing. And then also, I want to go a little bit deeper with some of the cinematography.
Oh, yeah?
And I actually want to like a few more examples and different times like that, to where I think the way this movie's shot betrays what it actually is.
Okay.
So, which one would you like to go with? Pacing, shooting.
You know what? Let's go shooting first.
Shooting first?
Let's go shooting
Okay.
first.
So, here's my thought, and correct me at any point if you think I'm just stupid.
All right.
Okay.
You're stupid.
Great. Gotcha. All right. I'm
Get
gonna.
out. This is just a solo man podcast. Now.
Yeah. Here's my YouTube login.
Yeah, I took over the channel. It's me now.
Anyway, so I think that it's pretty clear that we've established the tone is
Comical.
I wouldn't even say comical. I would say more action.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely
But,
an
like,
action movie.
But because of the way it's shot, it comes off as comical a lot of the times. There's a few one-liners or like quick-witted things here and there.
Yeah.
But no more than you'd expect for like an action horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
But when the horror falls flat, it makes the like comedy rise to the surface.
Yeah,
Something fills the
you,
void.
Yeah, it makes you
know what
like
I'm
pay
saying?
more attention to the
Right.
comical stuff,
Right.
Because there's not any meat there of the horror.
And since
stuff.
it's not an entirely comical focused movie by any means, what ends up coming through is some of the way the movie is shot and like the way scenes play out. So
I'm curious to see what is like on your mind for this.
So first off, there's scenes like the dogs.
Yeah.
Okay, that one, that's probably still the biggest glaring one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got scenes like that where like, they're going through it, then they just get this goofy ass dog and just staring him out the window. that's a great example. And I don't know if you've got any off the top of your head, but like just any scene where they're going down a hallway and then it feels the need to do like a quick cut of like the up close of a zombie or something coming through a window, trying to be scary, but then it cuts back to our protagonist and they're like so far away.
Mm-hmm.
And like scenes like that, it just betrays the atmosphere that's actually there, because I feel like this movie on one hand wants to be so influenced by Aliens, and like it's got your squad shooter where like everyone, like you're getting guys picked off left and right by the zombies in this instance, and the environment is just as much a hazard as anything. And then you've got the parts where it's just like, haha, I'm scary, right? And then like any scene like that just comes off as like, okay, what are we doing here? Or like the what's another good example? Like when they first meet the zombies, okay?
Yeah.
And then it's the girl.
Mm-hmm.
And then they all unload in this one.
Yeah.
And then like every other point in this movie, I would say they've done up until this point, they did a fairly realistic job. Michelle Rodriguez, pumps it full of SMG bullets.
Yeah.
And she goes flying.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah.
What is the point?
It just goes,
So, again, I'm just trying, at this point in the movie, my brain is struggling to try to figure out how to talk. Apparently, figure out what it is. So I don't know if there's any scenes specifically. I've tried to give you time to think about if there's any more glaring ones than what I could come up with off the top of my head.
I was just gonna kind of bank off like the thing where you said where like there's a zombie, right, and then like it usually like goes back and forth between a zombie and Alice, and Alice is usually like a mile away, and she's just like looking at him like, huh, and like the first thing I was thinking of is like when her fake husband whatever dies from that liquor monster at the train, and they go to the train, and then like. He obviously is a zombie, so he's like crawling towards her, and she's just like over here, just like looking at him, and it zooms in on the zombie, like, he's like, and then it just goes back to her, and she's like,
it's like how many times do I gotta do this?
Yeah, it did that quite a few times, and it was not needed.
Right.
I know it was trying to build like the tension of like, oh, you were my husband or fake husband at one point,
and then she said,
and then like,
I miss you already.
Yeah, and then drops the ring, like. I could have been done without the whole back and forth like 4 times, and like that didn't need to happen because
now once and I think that was another great example of where it didn't seem self-aware.
Yeah,
but there was one scene that actually did stand out to me that was actually really well done, and that's when Matt when he's still handcuffed, and he's going over to kind of observe the first zombie after Rain gets into the kind of scuffle with it, and she drops the keys.
Yeah, and then
he comes over. He's looking at it, and then he picks up the keys.
Yeah.
And then the whole time, when all of the zombies show up, he loses the keys. He's trying to struggle to get them back on or get them unlocked.
Well, he drops it through like the
and
then he's sitting there trying, and the zombie's like coming at him, and he's like kicking it, trying to like get to the keys.
Yeah. So like I thought. And of course, all of that's interspersed with actual action scenes, people shooting, and seeing these zombies up close for the first time. Actually, I think that was a really well done scene where, the choreography of everyone and like the way the shots are done, it all is congruent throughout the scene. I can follow everybody's, I don't want to say storyline, but like storyline through this fight. Very well.
Yeah, it's very well done. Like you're not confused, and like where everyone's at, and like the setting that they're in, you can see that like they're definitely not together anymore, and you can like see like one's branched off over here, one's branched off over here. They're doing this, they're doing that. This person's dying.
Right.
Like there's a lot going on, but you're not confused.
Which it's something you don't really. I feel like you don't think about.
No.
Like when you're like, oh, I bet that would be really hard to set up. Like, no, like the choreographers probably had to plan out like where everybody's moving. Of course, the camera angles of different things. Of course, they're not filming all of this scene at once.
Yeah.
They're doing different takes and different shots, of course. Probably took months.
But it has to have that continuation. Like, you can't just, like, do this and then, like, go somewhere else, and then when you come back, then be in a different spot, or then be doing something. Like, it has to be kind of set up in a way that, like, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And as a viewer, you don't really pay attention to that. You're just watching it. You're like, oh, cool, what's happening? But, like, there's a lot of things that go into it when setting it up, and, like, them all being split up. Like, it's not, like, the biggest, like, hit feature thing. Like, tons of other movies have done this.
Oh,
but for 2002, like, a cheesy Resident Evil movie for the games.
That's my thought. It's like,
that's why I'm like, I agree. I'm just like, whoa, they actually did pretty good here.
It was stronger than what it should have been. Like, had no right being that good.
Yeah, exactly.
And with that, I want to pat ourselves in the back there, because I feel like that is probably the most informed conversation we've probably ever had on this podcast.
Probably.
So, I guess with that being said, do we want to hop over to the pacing?
I mean, we can go with the pacing.
Okay.
I mean, so like the mansion thing is one of the few things that like I like the opening of this movie. I really like the setup of just the workers, and I know, is that something you want to cut? I think that's cool because it really sets up like, because like the whole movie's started because of this AI program.
Right.
And I like that, like, it's just everyday workers in the facility, and then they get bombarded with like poisonous gas, or like they shut down all the doors and all the like they can't get out. I kind of like that. I think it's a good introduction. I just didn't like the introduction of Alice in the mansion. I think that should have been done better, because she just
I liked her introduction.
Really? I don't know.
At least for the first like 10 seconds of it.
What, just her waking up in like the bathtub?
Maybe.
Anyway. Yeah.
Anyway, so jokes aside, I like the opening as well with the people underground, where I think I don't like it is when, and I give the movie props for not showing the zombies or anything before our protagonists go down.
Yeah.
I wish we didn't see as much of the peril. Like I
Like
know
the
we
death.
talked about, like, yeah, like I think the elevator scene and like the lab room filling up. Maybe you could get away with the lab room being fine because that's like very important to like that's the room that the outbreak happened in. You know, where they break the thing and everything. Like that was kind of pertinent, but I think maybe we could have just stayed in that room. Like it showed the spanning out of all these different characters.
Maybe in the like.
But then once the
Like-
stealing happens, it stays in there.
And I think that'd work too because like it's funny because it would have worked because of the fact that you wouldn't have at the moment paid attention that the facility probably had other stuff going on, but like the gas comes down and kills like most of the people that are like
Yeah.
not. I think that would have listen, hear me out. I think it would have worked because the place that's getting filled up with water. What if like to make sure they die, they put the gas in that room too? So like
Right.
the gas
Yes,
comes down,
yes.
but then later on when they're walking through the halls or stuff, they see a bunch of dead people or like
Right.
something like that before they turn.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they probably already were turned though by the time they got there. It's just they were all locked up and closed in.
Yeah,
the
'cause
power
that's
going
what they
off
said.
is what
Yeah.
makes them come out.
Mhm.
It would have been interesting to like do something to where you could have seen like a room full of them before like they got out, or maybe like when the power turns off, you see like the door open, then you see like a bunch of them coming out of a room or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it would have worked if they would have set it up in a way where the gas would have came down in that flooded room and you could have done the elevator scene, but the scene with all the people like dying from the gas, that could have been saved for like a different point where you could have been like, oh yeah, they probably died from the gas too, but like we weren't here.
Right.
I don't know.
See, I guess the scene with the gas to me was a lot less egregious than the elevator scene.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We spent so much on going up and down with
Yeah,
the elevator,
yeah, I know.
as opposed to the gas was just pretty.
Yeah, just die.
So-
I was more focused on like, since most of them died from the gas,
Right.
like I was gonna say like maybe use the gas in like in the water area, and then like maybe come back to that and like the later of the movie to like connect it to the beginning again, because like how are you gonna tie in like the elevator scene to something, or like
Right.
I know they showed them like look at the elevator like I guess we're taking the stairs,
Yeah.
but like I don't know.
But yeah, I agree. So I think that would, like, whether you're cutting it one way or the other, there's a lot to trim out in the opening of the movie, whether it be the mansion, some of the opening with the peril in the beginning,
Yeah.
all of the peril for that matter. I think there's a lot that can be done there, and I think that's not my only issue with the pacing. I think at some points it moves too fast.
For example.
For example, okay, so the area where they're first trying to get to, like, what is it, the Red Queen? Is
Yeah.
that the name of the
AI.
Yeah, the AI. When they're first trying to get there, and then like they cut out half their men all at once. Well, not half their men, but like a good portion of their people in that hallway, right?
Yeah.
And then immediately after, we're already losing more to the zombies. I just feel like there could have been more of a sense of not progression, but like, I don't know, devolvement of the team, the unit.
Yeah.
If more people were dying at different places rather than like seemingly all at once, because then it was just like, okay, well, I guess these are our protagonists then.
I mean, like even towards the end, that has that issue because the train kills like 2 people, and then the
Right.
third one gets taken off, and
Right.
then he turns into what he turns into. So like, I feel like I agree. I think that is an issue throughout the whole movie is that like there are certain sections that just kills off too many characters, because then after that huge section of a lot of characters dying, you wait for a while, and then eventually something happens, and then a bunch of characters die again.
Right.
I think it would have been better. Maybe like the laser room could have been fine, but after that, I think they should have been spaced out. Like one death.
I like the
after-
laser room for what it was.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that's like, even just outside of the kills themselves, I think like each of the flashback scenes, I don't think they really help the pacing of a scene. They slow it down way too much.
Yeah.
But then after that, the movie kind of has to make up for it by making, the conclusions that Alice jumps to from remembering something, just being like, just like that. Like, Spence, you're a bad guy. I'm going to grab a gun now. When in reality, like, the little vision we're getting doesn't entirely
Tell us
incriminate him.
Yeah.
It's just like he's either a really good guy or a really bad
Well,
guy.
I mean, you get in the conclusion from Alice's story up to that point is that like she's trying to take the virus and antivirus
Right.
and take it for herself to like sell it to whoever. But then this guy, he gets his memory back and he's doing the same thing. He's like listening in on their conversation from afar with whatever technology he has.
Yeah.
So then it shows him like take down Umbrella like she was going to do, takes the virus, the antivirus, leaves, and then it cuts back to him, and you're like, okay,
Right.
is he on Alice's team, or is he just going to take it for himself?
Right.
You're like, okay. So I don't know. I feel like the flashback scenes, you should have had one for Alice, one for him. That's it. Instead of the whole like back and forth having like 6 flashbacks.
That's
should
fair.
have just been like a one moment thing for each of them where they get his was fine. His right there would have been fine. And then hers should have been maybe like at the part she finds about the cure. She just like gets a huge flashback and then just like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
I just didn't like, if we're going to do flashbacks, it's fine. I just didn't like the fact that we flash back like 7 times.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think we needed a flashback for the first time that she sees the husband, because like immediately after it does just as much storytelling. Like she looks at his hand, sees a ring, and she looks at her hand and sees a ring.
Yeah, well, even before
because
that,
they're found in such close proximity of one another.
yeah, well, even before that, she has the picture that she looks at that has them together.
Yeah.
So like, you didn't really need the whole like, oof, oh, we were together. Oof.
Yeah.
You didn't need that. Yeah.
So again, a lot of those could have been cut out. Yeah, I think that would have been fine. I think we've got something to go with there.
Yeah. There's a lot that could be cut from this, whether it be like switching scenes around and like
This could easily be an hour and a half movie.
Yeah. We're not like film professors here, you know.
Yes,
we're not
we
gonna, yeah, nah. But like just throwing stuff out here and seeing if it sticks, whether it be rearranging scenes and turning them into different things, or taking scenes, cutting certain things like the beginning with like the deaths and like cutting maybe a certain section, whatever, or it be from cutting these flashbacks, or you know, even the pacing being like saving more people for later and killing them off individually, maybe to make it more interesting.
We need to start making the Popcorner cut of movies.
I just think there's a lot
Coming soon to Popcorner Plus.
Yeah, the subscription.
Yeah.
Now, there's just a lot in here that didn't need to be in here that really slows or brings a punch to the full experience of the movie.
Yeah.
I honestly, like, we talk a lot of negatives, but like, I honestly didn't hate this movie. I look at this movie though in a lens that's not Resident Evil, and I shouldn't do that because it's
being Resident Evil hurts it too.
Yeah, being called Resident Evil was where this movie gets its flack from, because like most people obviously are going to see the Resident Evil title and be like, "Yo, a franchise I love and like from the games. Let's go see what we got." And then you get this movie, and I don't think it's a bad movie like per se, but it's not good either. I don't know. What do you think? Like, you obviously probably look at this through the lens of a Resident Evil made product, which is what you should do. I've already seen this movie like long ago, and I knew that like if you look at it in a different lens, it's not bad. But like if you look at it as a Resident Evil movie, it's not that great.
I mean, there are franchises that are film franchises that, okay, let me see if I can use this as an example.
Okay.
I know you're not super familiar with James Bond 007, but there is one of the movies in the newest like actor's run as Bond, which is a really good action movie, but it didn't feel like a James Bond movie.
Yeah.
Which is really weird because James Bond isn't being, he's not being adapted from books or, games or anything like that. Like, just straight up.
A movie.
That's a movie thing. I
Yeah.
mean, yes, okay. Technically, they are based off of books from a long time ago, but whatever. But now it's a movie. Actually, now it's a movie franchise. Just straight up, bar none. It is one of the longest running movie franchises. And there was a movie that I don't even remember the name of it, so I'm not going to try to butcher it and be wrong. But there's one of the more recent movies that felt like a really good action movie, but it had none of the like semblances of a Bond film.
Mm-hmm.
So I walked away from it pretty disappointed, but like recognizing that it's really not that bad.
Yeah.
And if somebody hadn't seen the previous movies,
They might have thought it was really good.
or had any preconceived notions. Yes.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's like right on the money with this movie. As a Resident Evil fan, you're probably
Yeah.
like, but as like a person who may not know the series until this movie, or
I will say this, even the difference between that Bond movie and this, I think that Bond movie stands on its own to a general audience. I don't know how well this movie stands
yeah,
up to a general audience, regardless of your knowledge of Resident Evil.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, the early 2000s was a pretty big time for zombies. So like a lot of people were kind of into the zombie genre.
That's fair.
And even if like, back then gamers weren't as popular as they are now. So like they see a zombie movie called Resident Evil. Oh, let's go check this out. I mean, I don't know how good the movie did. I don't know the numbers and all that, but
Right.
I'm sure it did decent enough. I mean, it got sequels.
One thing I want to, there is one thing I want to check. So continue speaking your speak for just a
Continue
moment.
speaking my speak. Well, I don't really have much to say other than that this movie is a movie. And if you watched it, what did you think? Leave in the comments below.
You're doing really well.
Thanks. I'm really trying here.
I'm glad I-
Being put on the pressure.
My internet's being put on the pressure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that one thing I will talk about before final verdicts, because I'm sure we're coming up to final verdicts here. I don't know how you felt, and I'm pretty sure you didn't really like it that much or care about it.
This
but-
film.
This film. I think at the end,
Cinema.
I kind of liked the fact that we took a character from this movie and turned him into Nemesis. I'm not gonna lie, I like that idea that because he was gonna get saved. They had the virus, or the cure, not virus, and they were gonna give it to him, but then these dudes come in and take him and separate him, and then they're like, "Yo, Nemesis operation, whatever." And then in the second movie, I know Nemesis is there, and it's him. I like the involvement and the twist of it being someone that our main character knows.
But okay, I understand what you're saying, and I agree. I like that there's some knowledge to that, but I hate the fact that it makes it all the more glaring that this guy's only in the movie for that, seemingly.
Yeah, I mean, he
other-
had a sister.
He did have.
This
a
was
sister.
Chris Redfield, by the way. He had a sister. I mean, the sister died, but he looked like Chris from Resident Evil. Well, not Village, but 7. He looked a lot like
Yeah,
Resident
definitely
Evil 7
not,
Chris.
definitely not Village.
Yeah, he doesn't look like Village or
Yeah.
any of the other Resident Evil games. But
Yeah.
if you played 7, you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. The Chris that looks like Chris. That's what this guy looks like.
You look like Chris to me.
Thank you. I am a boulder punching guy.
I understand.
I eat boulders for breakfast.
All right. Well, while you're dealing with passing those stones, do we want to hop into our final verdict?
Final verdict. Let's go. I want to hear yours first.
You wanna
as
hear
a
mine
person
first?
who's never watched this franchise really.
Okay.
And let's get it. Let's hear
Okay. Okay. So, Resident Evil 2002 is a film
it. Mm-hmm.
that I have seen now.
That's it. That's
That's it. No, I think this movie struggles tonally with what it wants to be. I think you can feel the pull of that squad-based action hero movie with the horror tinge to it, which comes off as goofy with a lot of the shots, but not all of the cinematography is something to scoff at either. There's some good stuff there. I think the environments and the prop and set design are really, really good. And once again, I think that's leading to where there is still that bit of horror there.
Yeah.
I think, once again, I think back to the kennels. I think, I think some of that stuff is really cool. I think there's really great scenes. The dogs, the hallway scene with the lasers, the introduction of the zombies, all great. I think there's a lot of positives, but I think what really drags it down is just honestly the borderline bare bones explanation for plot outside of flashbacks in a lot of sense,
Yeah.
and I don't like that at all. It feels out of a video game that isn't even the one being adapted. And then I also really just don't enjoy the pacing of this movie overall. That feeds into the memories and stuff like that, but I think the opening was too long for what it was, and I think this movie could have been a good 10 minutes shorter, if I'm being honest. So with that being said, I think that this movie was enjoyable enough for a first watch. So I think that I won't watch it again. So I'm going to probably land around a 5 out of 10. Yes, I think it does get hurt in my eyes for being a Resident Evil movie.
Yeah.
But as much as I can say, hey, call it something else and whatever, unfortunately, there's just so many references, Easter eggs. It's undetachable.
Yeah.
To me,
It tries to be
and
in the
it's
universe.
trying to
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
And thankfully, the only thing this movie does really well is it doesn't disturb too much of the canon.
Yeah, it doesn't.
With not a lot of characters introduced that are relevant to the games. So far, so good. We'll see how the other movies carry that on, but I don't have my hopes up from what I have heard. So with that, for right now, it didn't harm my Resident Evil, but it didn't help trying to be a part of it either.
Yeah.
So I stick with a 5. I watched it. I enjoyed it well enough, but I have no interest in ever watching it again.
He's watching it again tonight.
Oh,
He's watching it right on rewatch right now.
I have Google Glass in my eyes. I'm watching it now.
I don't think you have enough money for that. Bird. So,
Anyway, you like this movie
yeah,
so
I mean,
much? You're gonna say,
yeah, I love this movie.
This movie is a cult classic.
It is a cult classic.
I'm
It is
gonna-
probably a 10 out of 10. You know, I really like all the characters in this movie. It really tops Leon, Chris, Jill. Who needs them? Who needs any of those
I'd
characters?
top Jill.
Yeah. Okay, real talk
Yeah.
though. This is a movie that I watched a long time ago. So, unlike you, I do have some nostalgic feel for this.
No.
Listen, we'll get into it. So, I have a little bit of a soft side for this movie. I have watched all of them, and this is a long time ago. I watched them like when each of them launched like a video game, when they released. And going back to watch this was interesting enough because I didn't know what to expect because I only remember vivid scenes.
Yeah.
That's it. I remember like the laser scene because it's so cool. Like that was one of the ones I was always like, oh, this is so dope as a kid.
That's how I know I've never seen this movie. I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
That was a good scene. And there's not that many of those type of scenes in this movie that make you like go, oh man, this is crazy. But there are little bits and pieces of references. I don't remember the time zones. I know this is 2002, but I don't know the like month. Versus I'm pretty sure RE4 came out in 2002. So I'm not sure if the lasers was a reference to the Resident Evil 4 video game or if it just got lucky and it was just something they put in there. I would say it's probably a reference. But if not, cool scene.
Resident Evil
nonetheless.
came out in 2005.
Really?
Yes.
I thought it was 2002.
You dummy.
Man, I'm crap. Well, it came out on PlayStation 2 and it came out on GameCube.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm
no,
old.
it was exclusive to GameCube.
Well, it came out on PlayStation 2 eventually, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but it started with GameCube. But
That's what I played it on GameCube.
Really? Well, honestly, the only reason I was like, I don't know. The only reason I was questioning was because I want to say the first Resident Evil game came out in like 98, 99. And they did not make that jump in 3 years.
They made 3 pretty quickly. 3 was a small game, as you know.
No, don't get me wrong. They made those first couple games pretty quickly, and they were very similar.
I don't know the knowledge of years when they launched. I never paid attention. I played like almost all of them.
You also were like getting your diaper changed.
Still, yeah, that's true. At the end of the day, though, I think it's unique. You think Resident Evil 4 took some reference to this movie then? You think they saw this movie and they're like, hey, that's a cool idea. Let's get Leon dodging some lasers.
Yep.
Maybe that's where that came
I saw
from.
a Tim Burton movie. I think was a pretty big reference to this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's this character named Alice, and she goes to Wonderland, and she meets this Red Queen.
Yo, that's crazy. I never knew.
Mm-hmm.
I hate you. Nonetheless, I think that Alice is a good character. I like Alice. I don't like, as you said, I do not like as well as the flashbacks. They're lame. I don't need that many.
Do you think if she ever gets imprisoned, we'll get Alice in chains?
Maybe. I hate you so much. It's weird though because a lot of people complain about Alice being a like standalone character, not being from the universe of the video games.
Right.
But you got to think this is 2002, and obviously 4 wasn't out yet. So, you know, we have Resident Evil 1, 2, and probably 3. I don't remember. So, but nonetheless, Resident Evil 1 was Chris Jill. Resident Evil 2 was Leon Claire. So, like, there was different characters each game at the time. So maybe they were like, hey, let's just do a different character as well. Because at the time, each game have done different characters each entry.
Right.
So I don't really take that against them because I actually think Alice is a cool character. In this movie, it doesn't really get affected by that. But in the later entries of this franchise for the movies, they sideline the main characters of the games.
Right.
That's when it gets
Iffy.
for me.
Gotcha.
But this movie, as a standalone film, and me having nostalgia for it, and there being cool scenes in here, but
Man,
also
don't
having
you
the bad
play.
scenes and the plot being a little slow at times and fast at times. You're going up and down like a roller coaster.
It's a whiplash.
Yeah, it really is. And there's a lot of things in here that don't even really relate to Resident Evil, but then they have the few things that do relate to Resident Evil. And you can't detach that. You have to look at it through a lens of Resident Evil, even as a franchise for the video games. So with that in mind, looking at it through the lens of a Resident Evil game player, you gave it a 5. I will probably give this a 6.
Okay, I can.
With nostalgia on the rise, I was thinking maybe 6.5. But looking through it as a Resident Evil game film, you have to look at it through that way because it's titled that. It has stuff in there that tries to attach it to it. It's got to be a 6. Like, there's the games. If you want any Resident Evil knowledge, play the games. It's better.
Let's see who is closer.
What, for actual ranking for the professionals?
Resident Evil 2002.
We are rocking.
Okay. IMDb has a 6.6 out of 10.
That was close.
Rotten Tomatoes is at 35%. Letterboxd is a 2.8 out of 5. So
Interesting
Yeah.
all around. I feel like this is a movie that every Resident Evil movie gets hated on. It's just what it is. But
it's kind of fun at this point.
I do think that the first film here, this one right here, is one that you would consider a cult classic because out of all the Resident Evil movies, the first one specifically of this specific franchise,
It's kicked it off.
this is the one that a lot of people are like, you know what, that one's not that bad.
That's fair.
This is the one that a lot of people are like, it's all right. And sometimes I remember hearing the second one some people enjoy, but after that, the rest of them, everyone hates. And then, obviously, the new entries, we've seen how those went.
I'm excited. I'm so excited to try them. I think we should do it.
I mean, I'm down. I don't
I'm at
remember
least down
much.
for 2, and then we'll play it by year.
That's
play
cool
it
with
by
me.
year.
I mean, 2, I remember liking just because Jill's on it. I don't know how much she gets sidelined, but I do like Jill. And the actor who did Jill, great.
Wonderful.
So,
Okay, well,
curious.
Popcorn episode 22.
Resident Evil 2002. Do you love it? Do you hate it? I'm sure you love it. I know this is your masterpiece film right here. This is your favorite one.
We need Martin Scorsese to come out and say, "This is cinema."
Peak cinema.
Goodbye.
Bye.